Ashes of Creation, as of making this video, is just a few months away from releasing in its Alpha 2 state. In fact, this may be the final update progress video I release before we're actually able to play the game. For those of you that aren't a bunch of down bad copium addicts that follow the game religiously, you might not realise why Alpha 2 is a big deal. Basically, Alpha 2 will be a persistent alpha. It's intended to be a true functional representation of all the core systems and features the game will have. In other words, the game will be feature complete but not content complete. This means that by playing or watching content about Alpha 2, you should have a pretty decent idea of if Ashes of Creation is an MMO for you or not. I suppose you could think of Alpha 2 in the same way as a Steam MMO that's just gone into early access. I'll do a more in-depth video just before Alpha 2 actually launches, but basically it's a huge milestone in the game's development. The time between Alpha 1 and Alpha 2 has been over 3 years, and the game's gone through so many changes since Alpha 1 that it's unrecognisable. With that said, in this video I'm here to do the usual live stream recap summarising the past 3 months of live streams to keep the casual followers of this game up to date with the latest developments. But with Alpha 2 right around the corner, why not treat yourself to an epic upgrade with today's sponsor Starforge Systems. I have one of my own, the Voyager 2 Elite, and not only does it look incredible but it also performs like a beast. Right out of the box I was able to instantly set up the RGB colours. As you can see, I went with aqua blue, and it's nice having the peace of mind knowing that any potential tech issues I do run into with it in the future, I can contact Starforge's dedicated team of expert computer nerds that will talk me through any potential troubleshooting. Starforge has PCs of multiple different levels, the Horizon at entry level, Navigator at the mid-range, and Voyager for the enthusiasts and content creators. Realistically, having a GigaChad PC will be a net positive to your life, not only for gaming but also for work, productivity, and just feeling happy whenever you look over at your PC setup. A lot of us use gaming as a form of escapism, but you can't really escape from reality if your alternative reality is running at 20 FPS. So don't compromise, get yourself a Starforge PC today via the link in the description below, and be ready for the next gen of MMORPGs that will totally be releasing soon. Surely. So in my last Ashes update vid we covered the December, January, February and March update live streams, which showed progress to the updated Ranger combat, the Caravan PvP system, the Commission system and the Fighter combat update. April's development livestream was quite a short and sweet one that showcased the Alpha 2 Midnight Skybox, as well as an update to the lighting and magic. Starting out we see a menacing acolyte style mage character standing in a dark desert environment, illuminated by the moons of Vera and a star-filled night sky. The primary focus of this livestream was the dark nights and lighting, and I have to say in this opening shot I love how the light from the moon illuminates the silhouette of the character. As the camera pans around from the back of the character to the front, you can see the impact that the light from the moon has in contrast to the darkness. The dark side of the character is almost pitch black, whilst the light side is bright enough to see the details on the armour. The mage is also wielding a fire wand, which is a good choice to show how the visuals of fire effects pop out during the night. The only critique I have here is that despite holding a fire wand, the light from the wand doesn't appear to be radiating onto the character or surrounding environment. The UI is turned on, we summon the Shell of the Ancients mount, and we slowly walk through the desert whilst being given an explanation of the changes made to the game's skybox. Also, it's worth noting that this is the first time we've actually seen the desert biome in-game, since initially being teased back in 2022. In regards to the skybox changes, Intrepid are using new tech that allows the skybox to rotate as the planet is rotating, which simulates a real planet. Apparently other games don't do this, and the reason why this is important ties into Ash's constellation system, which was explained in a previous livestream. Next, the moons are shown off, and one of the moons we're able to see erupt, which happens periodically due to a lore reason. We get a bit of an explanation around the design decisions behind the lighting changes. The devs wanted to make it as dark as possible without actually needing a light source such as a torch to illuminate the area. One thing I thought looked a bit weird during this live stream is instead of using campfires in the beginning to demonstrate ground lighting, they seemed to just place random artificial lights near rocks, which looked a bit weird in my opinion. Next we got to see some updates to the magic spell effects and the wand. First up, the updated fireball attack, which I think looks amazing. Lightning strike, arcane volley, Slumber, Shell. Ball Lightning received some highly requested visual changes and now looks much cleaner. We get a look at the wand skill tree, and there's basically 7 different ways to customize your weapon, including weapon combo length, what your finisher attacks are, elemental properties, proc rate, and so on. In this example, we've spec'd our wand for beam attacks. It's then explained that the status effect of your wand will switch based on the elements of your previous ability. Here Stephen casts a frostbolt and his wand turns to ice, then he casts lightning strike and it turns to lightning. Next we see an example of the wand beam finisher attack in action. These wand attacks are lightning because the previous ability cast was lightning. Magma field. A look at the wand's fire beam weapon attacks. And that was pretty much it for the gameplay part of this live stream. Overall, the lighting is looking much better, skybox looking beautiful, and the improvements made to the mage combat spell effects and wand weapon attacks actually have me excited to play a mage again. The usual quick art update to finish the live stream. And that wraps things up for Ashes of Creation in April. May's development livestream was definitely one of the biggest and most highly anticipated of the year, with the focus being Alpha 2 Node Wars. This is the first time since Alpha 1 that we've really had a livestream that fully focused on large-scale PvP. Many people had questions of how the game's performance would hold up since its transition to Unreal 5, how would the new combat feel in mass PvP, and what the hell are these Node Wars that Stevens briefly mentioned in the past? The livestream starts out in the Riverlands node of Miralef. Stevens on his mage with a full raid group in formation awaiting orders. The first step to Node Wars is for the mayor to open up their mayoral node UI, click manage commissions and select the war preparations option. This initiates a commissions quest that allows citizens of the node to turn in materials to fund the war effort. When players complete the commission, they'll receive their own rewards in the form of glint. Should enough players not elect to complete the commission, perhaps because they disagree with the mayor's decision for the war, then the mayor will not have the ability to declare war. Stephen initiates a bunch of commissions just to demonstrate the system and rewards, then heads over to the mayoral commissions board, where upon interaction players can now view the recently initiated commissions. We click the War Preparations commission from the board, which gives us a quest. Next to the commission board there's now a box where we can turn in resources to complete that quest. Click Turn in War Materials, objective complete, and now the mayor receives a war token which they can use to declare war on another node. Stephen clarifies that in reality it will take hundreds of players completing this quest to initiate the war. They obviously had to speed things up for this showcase for demonstration purposes. Open the Node Relationships tab, click the node you want to declare war on, then click the Declare War button. Upon clicking Declare War you need to select the war type. So far Territory Control War is the only option, however in the future there'll be a number of other war types such as disabling enemy node services, gold siphoning, and temporarily taking over enemy node mayorship. The Miralef group heads to the entrance of their node and sees a small party from the Winstead node baiting them. Stephen clicks Declare War, Territory Control, and initiates the war, causing these enemy node players to become attackable, quickly resulting in their deaths. We then get a brief explanation about the rules of Territory Wars, such as the team that reaches 1000 points wins. One kill gives you 1 point, but points can also be earned via objectives in the Territory Control area. Open the map and you can see a big circle on the map which is the Node War event area. Phase 1 of the war has the objective Harness the God Spike. You're probably thinking, what's the point of even declaring war? Well, basically, in the instance of territory control, you can siphon node XP away from neighbouring nodes, causing your node to level up faster and lock progression to the adjacent nodes. Additionally, Node War winners will receive a luck buff, giving them better loot for adventuring in these controlled areas. Next, Team Miralef make their way towards the event area. Once they arrive, you can see more info on the Harness the God Spike objective. Players need to go to POIs within the events area and kill bandit NPCs which drop imbued blood, as well as mine resource caches for imbued material, which then needs to be turned in to move on to the next stage and channel the God Spike. For the next 30 minutes, war breaks out in the area, and we're finally able to see how Ash's large-scale combat currently looks.
Now, I know that this venture would strike fear in the heart of normal men and women, but not in the hearts of Miralethians. Go forward, bring back the trophy that is... Oops, hold on. Bring back the trophy that is the blood. Go forward. Let us move.
Let's get 'em, lads.
Get 'em. Let's keep pushing. Go on, Neris. Okay, we're pushing them back.
During this gameplay section, I had a few thoughts. I think the damage numbers are looking really good in how they're animated. I like that there's a lot of area denial abilities that allows groups to take advantage of fighting in choke points such as the tank wall, traps and AoEs. It seems like attacking from verticality works really well, which isn't always the case in MMOs. The time to kill seems pretty decent, and I think it's interesting that the enemy's exact health value isn't displayed. You can only see increments of 25%, which is kind of interesting. It's also worth mentioning that the team have done a good job of cleaning up the visual clarity of these large-scale battles in terms of spell effects. Here Steven shows off a mayoral ability which gives an AoE damage and mitigation buff to allies for 5 minutes. Seems pretty OP, but each node type has a different mayoral buff, and in this case this one was for the scientific node. After about 20 minutes of battle, Winstead beats Miralef to the resource turn-in objective and can now start channeling the God Spike. At this point, Miralef needs to hold them off channeling the objective whilst also finishing their resource turn-in. Thankfully for Miralef, there's some catch-up mechanics built in the form of elite enemy scholars that spawn to drop vast amounts of resources, as well as increase the channeling time for the enemy. Eventually, Miralef completes the first objective and are able to fully focus on channeling the God Spike. Something really awesome that I didn't even know was a thing in Ashes was the ability for Mayors to ride flying mounts and use a special mount ability to swoop down and deal massive AoE damage to enemies. These flying mounts also have the ability to grant buffs. A final epic battle ensues, both raids are drawn to the one objective, and we're able to see how the game's performance is holding up in a full raid environment.
Oh no.
That's a lot of red. Oh god.
I'm on my way.
Oh boy. Nice.
Oh,
good
Keegan's
retake.
down. Okay, there we go.
We've got some clerics on the point if we want to have people try to channel.
Take my buff.
I've got the pocket heals.
I'm down, Nathan. You got the pocket res.
Looks like we're channeling.
Steven eventually pops a mayoral buff, giving Miralef the strength needed to overwhelm the enemy and start channeling the God Spike, completing the channel and winning the event. Upon completing the event, Miralef gains 250 war points out of the 1000 required to fully win the war. So sometimes, unless there's a ton of kills, it can be a case of you lost the battle but you can still win the war. Next, we're shown that by opening the map, you can now see that the event area, despite being in the Winstead node borders, is actually owned by Miralef. Stephen wraps up the live stream with a few clarifications regarding the Node War events only occurring at server prime time and the war existing outside of these events. It was also mentioned that some war rewards could involve the winners getting a summonable raid boss that only they can loot. And that was basically it for May's livestream. Overall, a massive update and one of the biggest streams of the year that answered a lot of questions in regards to how mass PvP will look in Ashes for Alpha 2. Before we get into June's development livestream, let me just say that this was one of the most mind-blowing technical updates we've ever had for Ashes. The server meshing tech that's discussed in this update is groundbreaking for the genre, and Intrepid seem to have solved a long-standing scalability issue that MMOs have faced. TLDR for the non-technically minded, Ashes of Creation will be second to none when it comes to epic large-scale battles and optimization. I highly suggest watching the full livestream because I won't be able to fully do justice what's explained in my concise attempts to summarize everything. So first of all, when it comes to servers and network solutions, most MMOs have scalability issues that they solve with a few compromises to design, such as instancing, layering, or in some cases the servers just crash with too many players. Intrepid don't want to compromise, so they needed to build their own custom-built solution. The requirements were no layering, high player counts, open world PvP, and low latency. So they didn't want to take the BDO route and use multiple channels, they didn't want to take the WoW approach of being in the same area as another player but being in a different shard, and they didn't want a heavily instanced world. So Intrepid made their own fully distributed networking stack tailor-made for Ashes of Creation, all built in-house, called IntrepidNet. IntrepidNet consists of the following technologies: server meshing, inter-server replications, microservices, dynamic gridding, and replication graph. First, the team goes over a few networking terms such as actor, which refers to any entity in the world, replication, which refers to the synchronization of multiple actors between game clients, and server meshing, which refers to a game world that instead of being single server is made up of many servers, which means you don't have to worry about simulating the entire world and all of its actions on one server. In the image displayed, you can see that the world is split up into grids, with each grid being a game server. All of the game servers combined are on one realm. Apparently this was a monumental task for the team to rip apart Unreal Engine and create this solution. Next question you probably have is, can I see other players at the border of these servers? Yes, because the team uses inter-server replications via a proxy actor. This proxy actor isn't an actual player, but is essentially a copy of the original that doesn't carry a player connection. When the player moves, the proxy will follow. So what if you attack another player in another server from the boundary? This part is way too technical for me to explain, but all I'll say is it just works. You won't know these server boundaries exist, you won't be able to tell the difference between the times you attack a proxy versus attack the player. The inter-server interactions are all designed to be a seamless experience. Just to clarify, these server boundaries are invisible. They're only displayed in the preview for demonstration purposes. Players will have no idea where these server boundaries are, and in fact they aren't static but dynamic, meaning their position can change, which we'll get into later. Next we get an explanation about how Intrepid's server meshing technology is different compared to typical server meshing solutions. Basically, they don't have a centralized object replicator. Each server is responsible for replication, which gives advantages such as not having a single point of failure taking down the entire realm if it crashes, and eliminating potential bottlenecks that limit the number of players that can be supported within the realm. The problem with having one replicator is that it needs to keep track of millions of entities, which causes issues as more players and entities are introduced. Basically, for an MMO using traditional server meshing, you can spawn as many servers as you want, but at a certain point the bottleneck becomes the replicator. Alpha 1 actually used a single replicator, and it massively limited the number of players that the world could support. Additionally, when a single replicator is overwhelmed, it can cause the entire realm to lag, which I'm sure we've all experienced before in other MMOs. A big battle on the other side of the world causes the entire realm to lag. Ashes of Creation is aiming for player counts that a centralized replicator simply doesn't support. The graphic on screen shows Intrepid's solution, which is rarely used in other MMOs due to it being much more complex to pull off. The Intrepid solution distributes the problem, eliminates the bottleneck, and also eliminates the single point of failure. This next graphic shows fault tolerance, and as you can see, if one server goes down, the rest are unaffected. Additionally, this allows for fixes to occur in a live environment, as well as seamless patch deployment, minimizing player disruption. Removing the replicator caused its own issues though, such as how can player 1 see player 2 if they're on the other side of the world from one another via the world map, for example. To solve this issue, Intrepid created a solution called microservices. These are basically servers on top of servers that deal with various interactions such as social, guild, artisanship, mail, and node, so that even though players are on the other side of the world from one another, the servers can still get information from these microservices to enable communication. After creating the microservices, Intrepid was then able to create a tool called Shoal's Eye. This gives the devs an overview to see that NPC, events, and resource spawning is working across the server mesh, whereas before having the ability to see the entire world state wouldn't have been possible. Additionally, these microservices are also designed in a way so that if one goes down, it doesn't bring the entire realm down. If the social service goes down, for example, it'll only affect your ability to chat and form parties until it's fixed. Next, we learn about the dynamic gridding system, which is mind-blowing. Imagine everyone from the realm goes to one location. Surely that'd mean they're all on one server. Well, no, because thanks to dynamic gridding, Intrepid will be able to dynamically spin up new servers for specific zones under heavy load, further subdividing the existing region. The graphic on screen does a pretty good job of explaining how this works, but the real difficulty in this comes from splitting the servers without the players noticing. Apparently, there's not a single other game that's managed to pull off a dynamic gridding system such as this one yet.
We are not the first people to try this. This is something that a lot of people have tried. It is, the answer to scalability if you can get it right, and that is our mission here, is to get this right. We want to be the people that solve this problem, because if we solve this, the level of battles and dynamicism, I guess, we'll be able to have in Ashes is going to be unparalleled to any other game.
This tech isn't something that will be in the far future either. It's in active development now, and Intrepid are hoping to have it all ready for Alpha 2 in a few months. Server meshing and dynamic gridding can only work so far though. If 1,000 players enter a space as small as a room, you can't have a 30 by 30 square meter server, so it's also still necessary to increase how many players a single server can support. This next bit was once again too complex for me to concisely put into words, but basically the team managed to optimize by reducing relevancy checks via Unreal's recent replication graph feature that allows devs to build custom solutions for collecting and prioritizing relevant actors within a certain proximity for replication. This improved performance by 1.5x. They then went further by having some actors, such as trees that are rarely interacted with in terms of replication, go dormant when there's no interaction. This improved performance by 5x. This is still apparently not enough though, due to the worst case scenario of hundreds of players running into a tiny area. Typically, this is where other games would introduce a new layer to solve the issue. This is where Intrepid hit an engine limit due to Unreal Engine's single-threaded replication. In other words, all of the processing is handled in one core of the server's CPU. Intrepid needed to make Unreal's replication multi-threaded, which has never been done before. Until now, that is.
Making it multi-threaded is incredibly difficult. I am not aware of it being done before. I tried to do some research around it at the time, and everyone was saying basically that it's impossible. But we did it anyway. We persevered through, and we multi-threaded the Unreal replication tech.
After multi-threading Unreal's replication tech, Intrepid was able to gain another 2.4x total improvement compared to single thread. Overall, with all these optimizations, Intrepid managed to reduce replication time by a total of 94% so far, which is a massive achievement and something previously thought not to be possible. The live stream ends with an art showcase, which I'll flash on screen now. And that wraps it up for Ashes of Creation in June and Q2 2024. Like I said, it's really worth watching the full livestream, especially if you're a dev. I actually found the server meshing livestream more interesting than the Node Wars one, as it's a rare look behind the scenes deep into the tech that will make Ashes a true next-gen MMO. This particular recap took me a long ass time to make, so as always, if you enjoy these vids and plan on playing Ashes of Creation in the future, then click my referral link in the description below and create an account. It doesn't cost anything, and I might be rewarded when the game actually launches. Let me know in the comments below which development livestream of Q2 you was most impressed by, and help us out with a like for the algorithm gods to spread the good word about our Lord and Saviour, Ashes of Creation. Social media on screen, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.